Hello and welcome back to Quest Markers, where we talk about games and the stories they tell. My name is Marina, my pronouns are she, her, and this is episode 4. Today we're talking about Xenoblade Chronicles 1. As always, a big spoiler warning. We talk extensively about Xenoblade 1's story, but we do also touch on Xenoblade 2 and 3. Xenoblade 1 is my personal favorite in the trilogy, so without further ado, let's get into the episode. Hello, I am so excited to have the legendary, esteemed YouTuber, Snugboy, here on the show today. I know you don't like being called a YouTuber.
Or legendary.
Well, that's too bad.
Too bad, so sad?
Too bad, so sad.
Wow, we know it. You win some, you lose some, but here we are.
You do. Welcome. I'm so excited for this.
Hi, thank you so much. It's such an honor. I'm a big time listener, first time watcher, and it's just an honor to be here. I'm very excited. Thank you so much.
Would you like to introduce yourself the way that you'd like to be introduced?
Hi, I'm legendary YouTuber. No, that's ridiculous. I'm just a little guy who makes little silly videos on YouTube sometimes, and that's me. Yeah, I don't know. It's not very. I'm very bad at talking about myself, though. You know this.
Yeah, you are kind of bad at talking about yourself. So we could just move on. I got a couple questions. I always ask this.
Okay.
This kind of was unplanned, but I asked my first guest on the very first episode, and now it's just become a thing. So what beverages do you have? Are you staying hydrated? What are you drinking?
You know I'm drinking that H2O, just add water.
Always.
Not the mermaid kind, just some water. Yeah. Just drinking water these days. I have been drinking a lot of hot chocolate, but I ran out of soy milk. So you like soy, don't you?
I have a soy latte in front of me, so it's way too late in the day for me to have coffee. So,
but not for me. I'll get a coffee later.
Just making bad choices. What are some of your favorite games and/or favorite game series?
Okay, so I love, like with all my heart, like so much, and people kind of know me for it, but I love Solitaire. I think Solitaire is just like one of the best games ever made. Apart from that, probably.
Okay, hold on. For everyone listening, you actually do play Solitaire like fairly frequently.
Yeah, no, that's actually not even that much of a joke. No, I'm a big Legend of Zelda now. It's like that was like my first love. I remember playing Ocarina of Time on my cousin's hand-me-down N64 and just falling in love with it. But my favorite from that series is Twilight Princess, which if anyone knows me for anything, it's probably that. I love Legend of Zelda. I love Xenoblade Chronicles, which we're going to talk about today. Spoilers, but you clicked on the podcast. What else do I love? Like my favorite indie game is this game called Omori. But I love a big wide array of stuff too. Like I think I got quite an eclectic taste that probably leans more over to Japanese stuff. But yeah, Zelda is my number one love ever in this universe.
So does that mean that you're excited for Tears of the Kingdom?
Not really. No. Like, I don't know. I'm skeptical of it just because I'm a bit frustrated at the fact it's taken so long. Plus it looks like it's just reusing so much of the first game. I don't really understand why the massive wait. So I'm a bit skeptical. And I'm just not that excited for it, which makes me so sad because it's Zelda. Yeah.
No, I'm with you on that because like my first 3D game was Ocarina of Time. Yeah. And really all we've seen in the trailer so far is kind of the same Hyrule and like very similar abilities. And I don't know. I think people would argue with me on that. But, I guess we did see the caves / tombs.
Well, they know it's going to sell, so like maybe that's why they're using like the fact that maybe I just hope there is a bunch of stuff we're not seeing, and if there's not, I'll be disappointed. But
I really hope so because like I've put almost 200 hours into Breath of the Wild. I know that Hyrule like the back of my hand. Like I want to see something new, and obviously we're gonna go into the sky, but it looks a little. It doesn't look like there's a lot up there.
And like if I wanted to go into the sky, I'd catch an airplane. Like give me a fantasy that I can. Oh
yeah,
zing.
I don't know. I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical, and it makes me sad because I love Zelda. I've played so many Zelda games, but anyway, I'm gonna keep us moving.
Please do.
What are you currently playing?
That's such a good question. Actually, I'm kind of like playing multiple games at once. Well, I just finished replaying The Wind Waker, but that.
Oh yeah.
But I'm playing Final Fantasy 14 Heavensward.
Yes.
I used to think it was Heaven's Sword. And because I just misheard everyone say it. And I'm also playing Earthbound, which I'm almost at the end of, I think. And I'm kind of, Yeah, I'm getting there. I just hit like a big difficulty spike. I just went into Stonehenge, which had an alien base in it, and it's such a weird game. And I'm also playing The Legend of Zelda Spirit Tracks, which I played a bunch as a kid, but I've never finished. So I'm just that's kind of what I'm doing at the moment.
Amazing. Okay, wait, I'm playing 3 things too.
What are you playing?
I'm also playing 14.
Yeah.
We're in the same free company, so you should know that.
What the fuck is a free company?
Oh my God. I'm on the cusp of Endwalker. I'm so excited. I'm literally a couple quests away from starting Endwalker. I'm playing Dragon Age Inquisition, and I'm playing Crisis Core, which is taking me way longer to beat for some reason because I keep finding I normally don't play side quests, which I'm sure people are going to give me shit about this, but I normally don't play side quests, and I just beeline the main quest because I'm all about story. And I don't know, there were a lot of side quests, and I was like, well, I want all these summons. Like, yeah, I want Bahamut. I'm going to go get Bahamut. So anyway, Crisis Core is taking me a while because I've been doing side quests.
When you say the side quest, do you mean like the weird like missions that Yuffie shows up in?
Yeah.
Those are taking you ages? Aren't there like only a couple of them? Or did I only do a couple? I think I just did a couple.
There's a bunch of them. There's a bunch. I'm way over leveled. I'm slicing through bosses in a few hits. It's very funny.
Yeah, I wasn't over leveled and the game was still really easy. So I think...
Yeah, that's fair. Zach Fair is so funny. Like, what a funny protagonist. Like, there's a limit break in the game where one of the characters says something and Zach goes, mind your own business. And it's like, what?
I love him. Just a king.
It's so funny.
So
what
funny. Are you talking about? What's going on here?
So good. But okay, we're here today to talk about Xenoblade 1. And actually...
Are we?
No, we can talk about whatever you want. We can switch gears right now.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for asking. No.
We're talking about Xenoblade Chronicles 1. I played it based off of your recommendation.
Is that true?
That is true.
Really? Oh, the video?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, from the video.
Wow.
Yeah. So I played it based off of your recommendation. I loved the game so much. So many twists and turns. And I don't know if this is controversial, but it's my favorite in the Xenoblade trilogy. So really excited to talk about Xenoblade 1. I know it's one of your like top 5 games, right?
I would say absolutely, yeah. I've fallen in love with it more and more as I played. Every time I love it more, which I feel like is quite rare. I usually when I play games, it's like I'm scared of not liking it as much. But like every time I play Xenoblade, I just notice more things in it, or things click more. I just have more fun, and especially the last time I played it, which was last year, kind of in preparation for Xenoblade 3. I really like properly sat down and learned, like actually how to really get good at the combat and stuff too. And just it's such a fun game. It's the GOAT.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Xenoblade 1 is my favorite in the trilogy easily because it's the tightest story. It has so many twists and turns. It plants seeds really early on and kind of keeps you going through this mechanic where our protagonist, Shulk, is able to see the future, and you get bits and pieces of what's going to happen later on in the story that for me kind of kept me going. But then there's also so many twists where you're like, what? And I found the pacing to be really, really good as well. So kind of when you start to itch for the next story beat, you get the next big cutscene.
There's really no dull moments in the game, is there? You know how like in other games you're always like, oh, when's the next thing going to happen? Like that's never a feeling you get in Xenoblade 1. It's so perfectly paced in its both in its big twist, but also just like the general events of the story.
Yeah. Like I never felt like I overstayed my stay in any area in Xenoblade 1.
Oh, for sure.
Which is good. It was a really good feeling because I've played some games where it's like, okay, I want to get past this. Like, please, can we go to the next area? But yeah, so it's my favorite for a few reasons. I love the cast and characters.
Oh, so good.
The voice acting is so good. Just huge shout out, especially to Adam Howden.
My boy Adam.
Shulk.
So good.
Just absolutely incredible performance. The story was just really, really unique. It's about these 2 titans that are fighting, and they kind of lock in place in their battle, and then different beings start to life starts to flourish on both of these titans. On the Bionis you have the Homs, and on the Mechonis you have the Machina. It's just like, what a unique premise. And it starts off as this like revenge story where Shulk's crush Fiora gets killed by the Mechon who invade their colony on the Bionis. But then it becomes like a very classic JRPG where you eventually like set out to kill God, which is like really funny to me.
Yeah, well, I've definitely got some thoughts on that I want to talk about later.
Yeah,
But you're
yeah,
so
yeah.
right. Do you know how the inception of the game came about? Are you aware of that?
I don't.
So the developers Monolith Soft, they got bought out by Nintendo, but before that they were independent and they made a game called Xenosaga, which is kind of similar in a way. It's like a JRPG, but it's a bit more anime. And before that, those same developers, when they were still at Square Enix, made a game called Xenogears. And both Xenogears and Xenosaga are quite beloved JRPGs, especially Xenogears. Actually, really quick fun fact: the idea for Xenogears was a proposed story idea for FF7, and then they were like, "This is too dark," so they just went and made Xenogears.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
So then they got made, then they got bought by Nintendo like mid 2000s or something, and they wanted to make this JRPG, but it's for the end of the Wii's life cycle. And originally, the game was going to be called Monado: Beginning of the World, which is a massive fucking spoiler.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also a terrible name. And then just at the last second, they decided to change it to Xenoblade, kind of just to tie it into their past games, so they could kind of make them feel the same. So even though it's not technically connected, or definitely not legally connected to the previous ones, like whose IP is owned by different companies, it is spiritually connected. And then I think obviously you probably know this bit, like Nintendo of America had wanted nothing to do with it, but then so Nintendo of Europe localized it, which is why it has British voice acting.
That's right.
And then kind of started out as this little small darling. Now it's grown to like one of Nintendo's like biggest RPG franchise,
Which is insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
Insane.
I always wonder, I'd love to ask people who worked at Nintendo of America if like they look back at that as a mistake, or if it's just like, no, like it worked out the best way it could have. But
I feel like from a business perspective, it worked out really well for them because the Monolith Soft team has helped on major Nintendo franchises like Zelda.
Yeah. Oh, not the buying it, more the like the refusal to localize it in the first place.
Oh, gotcha.
Like seeing how popular it's become.
Yeah.
But can you imagine the game with American accents? Like it would be just so much worse, I think. I do not think it'd be anywhere near as good.
No, I can't. But that's because the voice cast is so good. Like,
yeah.
Ryan is just like one of the greatest characters of all time.
It's one of the best dubs I've ever heard, and I don't know why it's so much better. Like, I don't know if it was just an incredible director, if they just had more budget and time than usual. Most of these actors are just normal British actors, like, who kind of do theater and TV and a bit of this and that. Like, it's not like they're specialized voice actors. And I don't know what it exactly was that made this so special. It's because it's quite good.
Yeah, it is. It's excellent. And I wonder if, sometimes you just get a voice director that can work magic and that could just get the best out of the actors that they work with. So I wonder if it was that. But so I mentioned Xenoblade 1 is my favorite. Why is it your favorite in the Xenoblade trilogy?
I think it's my favorite in the Xenoblade trilogy because, especially in comparison to 2 and 3, it's got quite a grounded story, I think, which it sounds ridiculous when it's like it's like two giant titans and man versus machine and robots and a mystical sword that gives you grants you visions of the future. But like, all that stuff aside, the characters are so grounded and realistic that you really care and relate to them. And so you kind of get gripped and hooked on Shulk and his character and his friends so quickly. And then that combined with the brilliant twists and turns in this super realized and engaging world, it's just this like brilliant concoction that just like magically and almost perfectly just traps you in. Right? Like it's just, there's just something about the story that is so special in this game, which I've never seen recreated quite like this to this degree in any other sort of JRPG.
Yeah. And oh my God, the areas in Xenoblade 1 are just incredible. Like I think of like Satoral Marsh at night, or I think of like, I really love Valak Mountain as well.
Yeah.
Incredible, massive areas. I have no idea how the game fit on the Wii. How did this game fit on the Wii?
Monolith are just the goats. They're incredible. But like, again, that's the thing. It's like the world is also like a part of the story. It's like the coolest thing ever. Being you're these tiny people on these giant titans is the coolest idea ever. And I always love getting to a new area and like looking up and seeing where I was on the titan. And like, when you get up to where Colony 6 is, you can look down and you can see Colony 9 behind the kneecap, or it's like, you can always see, like, you can see the Mechonis' sword and stuff. It's the coolest thing ever.
It is. It's very cool. Do you have a favorite area?
I love Aerith Sea, especially at night when you get those rare meteors.
Oh, it's
like
so
the meteor
good.
shower is so beautiful. What else? I do like Sator Marsh at night too. I think that's quite beautiful. I do like Frontier Village, like the Nopon Village. I think it's quite fun. But all these areas are I think accentuated so beautifully by the soundtrack, which is just incredible. And also such an incredible team. I don't know the names off the top of my head, but you got the woman who did like all the Mario and Luigi and Kingdom Hearts games.
Yoko Shimomura.
Yes. Then you've got this amazing electric vibe band with Ace Plus, and then you got this other composer or two, and it's just like, it's such a good dream team.
Oh, absolutely. I remember starting to play the game and I knew very little about it. And I go into most games knowing essentially nothing. And I remember when the Bionis battle theme started playing, and it's just so beautiful with this lead violin that takes center stage. And I was like, oh, I'm going to love this game. And I love that. And then I love Unfinished Business. It's
Dunban's theme that plays once?
It unfortunately only plays once. And then it
So
plays
good.
in the DLC as well.
So good.
Once.
The DLC is so bad. Well, actually, I had a note on that if you don't.
Yeah.
I think also the music does such a good job at elevating the scenes. And I feel like we'll get more into detail with the scenes later, or we won't. I don't know. It's your podcast. But like the music really elevates the scenes so well. And the two that come to mind is of course Engage the Enemy, which is that hauntingly
so good,
daunting song that of course plays when Fiora dies, and like that's just so chilling. And it does sort of lose its bite as it gets replayed for the millionth time by the end of the game. But
yeah, it's still so good though.
It's still so good, especially when you watch it.
Good.
And going back to the voice acting, it's like you just get hooked when you see Shulk scream, "I'll kill you."
Oh,
and
my
especially,
God.
I'll make this music point really quick, but then I think we should probably get back to characters and talk about why they're so good. Because
we can talk about music. We'll talk about characters in a second.
Yeah, I just really want to quickly say on the music, the song "Once We Part Ways," which only plays twice in the game, is such an incredible track. So the first time you got it is when Ryan and Shulk decide to leave Colony 9 and go on this mission of revenge. And it's just this beautiful moment of like the kids have grown up and they're leaving their hometown and like taking their first steps into adulthood and this scary world. And just the way they look behind, and Dunban's looking at the window and he's like, "When I'm fully healed, I'll join you." It's just this momentous moment, which I always find funny because then when you get out of the cutscene, and then Shulk and Ryan are still at the gate and they're like, "Oh, so do we have any plan? What are we going to do?" Anyways, and then the last time is right at the end of the game when Shulk's deciding what to do with this new world and how to, and it's just great.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. I mean, the music just helps elevate the story. And when I think about the story of Xenoblade 1, I just think about the twists and turns. And like the two for me that narratively were just incredible. One is at the very beginning and then one is towards the end. But the first one is like, Fiora dies at the very beginning of the game.
Yeah.
And the way that you're introduced to the battle system is you play as Shulk, you play as Ryan, you play as Fiora, and then a playable character dies.
Yeah, that's the thing. Gameplay-wise, you're like, they put too much effort into Fiora. There's no way they're going to kill her off.
Absolutely. And then she dies and you're like, what? And that sets you off on this journey. So that to me was one of my favorite cutscenes. And then my other favorite cutscene that was just jaw-dropping was after you face Egil. This is like way, way, way later in the game. But after you face Egil, Dixon shoots Shulk. And it's the whole cutscene of Zanza's soul was living in Shulk's body and Maineth's soul was living in Fiora's body. And you're sitting there like, what? This is supposed to be a revenge story of... Huh? And I just remember my jaw just dropped.
Exactly. And right after Shulk and Egil get along.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, oh my God, just incredible the way that they wrote that. And I have started playing it for a second time, and now you can kind of see kind of the seeds that they planted.
There's
like
so
Shulk says,
much good foreshadowing in this
really
game.
early on. Yeah, he goes, "There's two voices within me," and it's incredible. So anyway, I wanted to ask you, what are some of your favorite story beats?
Well, I think rewinding from those plot twists, one of my favorite is, of course, when you're at the top of Prison Island and it's Shulk, full of anger and revenge, which is a big part of the game. He's getting full of this anger and stuff. Slashes open the white golden mechon and then sees a Homs inside, and not only a Homs, it's Fiora. And like I didn't see that. I thought she was dead. I thought, and it's like,
same.
and then she's alive, and then it's heartbreaking because she doesn't recognize you. So suddenly the game stops about being like it stops being completely about revenge and avenging the woman you loved, but then it suddenly becomes like this search for your companion. That's an incredible one. I love that whole cutscene. I love the speech Shulk gives to the sword, I guess. I love the entire ending sequence. I've watched it like maybe a million times.
It's so
But I think we should talk
good.
about the ending as a whole in a bit.
Yeah.
I really love the opening of the game. I think it's such a brilliant. I love like starting with Dumban to kind of get you introduced to the game, but both is immediately setting up this world. And when I played this game on the 3DS when I was 16 for the first time. And even when I was 16 on the 3DS.
How did you play it on the 3DS?
No, but this is what I'm saying. Like the visuals are so awful, but even like that, even when I was 16, which is pretty old for a teenager, like it just terrified me. I felt so hopeless in this world. And then when the Mechon attack Colony 9, it's like, it feels like despair, you know? Of course, Metal Face being revealed to be what's his fucking name? Mumkar. Yeah, that's great. But then also additionally is when Dumban goes to kill him and Shulk stops him, and it's like, again, it's that foreshadowing, it's that balance of like the good kind heartedness of Shulk versus like the evil influences of Zanza that sit inside of him. Yeah, and then of course the whole Shulk reveal and that entire ending, and brilliant.
So good. Do you want to talk about the ending? Because I did not see that coming from a mile away. Like when you're climbing the Mechonis to get to Egil, I did not think that we were going to quite literally end up in space and talk about like the quote unquote like resetting of the world.
I think it'd work better if we just really quickly, or especially with Shulk, just talk about why his character works so well.
Yeah, why do you think Shulk's character works so well?
I think what's so brilliant about Shulk compared to most JRPG protagonists in particular is, unlike your Clouds or your Squalls or whatever, who are very edgy and very like cool, I want to be cool. Like that's the whole thing. We're going to be cool and so cool. Shulk is just like an average, earnest, nerdy guy, right? His introduction is just perfect and it contrasts so perfectly against like the war, high octane energy of Dunban, right? Because Dunban in any right should be the protagonist of a JRPG. He's like really cool. He's a war hero. But then instead we're playing as this like really down-to-earth, very soft, sweet guy. And you spend the first 3 to 5 hours as this guy, he's just like a nerd. He loves tinkering with machines. He just wants to unlock the power of the Monado. And the big thing I love about this game is the Monado is the mystery of the game. Like no matter where you go, it's always, what is the Monado? Like how do we unlock its power? Like what is its secrets? And Shulk is just so obsessed with those intentions of his to unlock its power and figure it out. And then, so when you have this soft, sweet little boy watching his childhood friend be impaled by metal claws, that's what makes him snap, right? And then seeing him erupt in that rage, it suddenly shows you like, oh, this guy isn't just a sweet little guy who needs to be protected by his big best friend Ryan. There's potentials for anger and rage in him and something darker and deeper within. But that also feel, it doesn't feel written. It still feels like an appropriate human response.
Absolutely.
And so then as the game goes on, for the most part, he's still this sweet guy but then has, these moments of anger and rage that kind of get worse and worse, I'd say, as the game goes on. But there's so many things about Shulk that I've always really appreciated. And one that I think is a small thing no one ever talks about is that Shulk is a servant to the Monado. I feel like, with most other JRPG protagonists or video game protagonists, it's like, oh, I'm cool. This is my weapon, the weapon I use or whatever. But Shulk's always like treating the Monado as like something above him and special. He says, if we can just unlock the Monado's power, or even when you're in gameplay, you unlock the Monado abilities and you will say out loud, Monado, lend us your power. And there's the one where he saves Charlotte with the speed and she's like, I didn't know you could do that. He's like, well, it's not me. It's the power of the Monado. And I just think I've always really liked that fact about him, that I think it makes him feel just like a regular guy in this larger than life scenario. One of my favorite cutscenes is when you're climbing up the back just after Sartol Marsh. And then Shulk stops Dunban and he says, hey, I'm really sorry. I didn't even ask. I know this is your sword, Dunban, but could I keep borrowing it for a while? Like not even
so good.
Not even take it, but just can I keep borrowing it? And Dunban's like, what are you talking about? Like, of course it's yours. You can use it better than I ever could. And there's just something really sweet about that for me that I've always loved. Like, does that have anything to do with the larger story? Probably not, but it's just a fact of Shulk's I've always really liked. And so when you have this sweet boy who kind of gets tested and is just so fueled with revenge and the want to save the friend he loves, and then that kind of turns into, well, I've saved him and now I have to destroy the Mechon, but then no, I have to just find out why we're fighting. And right at the end, he's got the Monado in the air, he's going to bring it down and kill Egil. and it's like the rage has consumed him. It's like something else has consumed him, and you can hear him say, "No, this isn't what I want. What am I doing?" And the Monado stops. Again, it's like he is a servant to the Monado, but then in that moment, he overtook it. Then him and Egil, they share the handshake. They figure out, hey, actually we can be friends. Bam. Hello, my name's Dixon. Yeah, I'm a fucking dick, son. And you're actually not even real. You're a child, and then you died then, and then you're like my God's soul's been in your body, and then the game takes an entire left turn. Yep. And the last 3 hours is just a completely different game in the best way possible.
Yeah, absolutely. 1,000%. And before we talk about the ending, I want to talk about the other characters too, because I think you touched on a really important point, right? Like Shulk is really humble, and I think that's what makes him really endearing as a character. Like that, I remember when he asks Dunban, "Hey, is it okay if I keep using the sword?" Like it's just such a beautiful, kind moment.
Yeah.
But to your point, like that is juxtaposed to the anger that we see him experience, right? Rightfully so in a lot of moments. And then we have his best friend Ryan, who is this like really silly, but also like big brother type character, and also just one of my favorite characters of all time.
I don't know why Ryan works.
Ryan just works
on paper. He's such an awful character.
Should not work. Ryan should not work on paper. But Jay Taylor brought Ryan to life like nobody else. I cannot imagine.
Like you want a Ryan in your life.
Anybody else voicing Ryan. And absolutely you want Ryan.
Yeah. Lines
someone like Ryan in your life.
You can't have a rainbow without Ryan, or it's Ryan time, baby. Like should make you want to like get out of your skin and run around because it's awful, but it's just so funny and so endearing. And he's an amazing character. I criticize the game a lot, and I do think one of its problems is that like the other characters apart from Shulk don't really go on arcs. But I
do agree with that.
Even that aside, they still have like beautiful kind of beats. And like one of Ryan's is like having to realize that he can't always be there to protect Shulk. Like he's not always, Shulk's kind of grown up. It's almost like it's like definitely a big brother, little brother vibe. And I don't know if you've done the heart to heart between them, but they had like a massive fight because like Ryan or Shulk was scared of caterpillars, and then one of them put it in each other's shoe.
No. Oh no.
Yeah,
I haven't seen that one.
The heart to hearts in this game are incredible. But I think a lot of people kind of overlook them because they're not voiced.
I ended up not being able to do many of them because I didn't have enough affinity with many characters.
Yeah, grinding affinity with everyone sucks. It's awful.
Yeah, grinding. Yeah, it just takes a while. But anyway, just Ryan is just one of the best characters just in gaming. And to your point, just should not work and just works so well. And we got Sharla, who I never really felt huge affinity to Sharla, but I think
she's the weakest by far.
Yeah, like she's, one of the, what's really funny about Sharla is that she's one of the healers in the group, and she heals with a rifle, which is just like very funny to me, but she's a much more serious character than like if we compare her to Ryan. You spoke about Dunban already, who's kind of
the best, just the best. Like you want that cool, I love JRPGs like that have a cool older mentor sort of figure. Like I think Auron's kind of the equivalent for FF10, right?
Yeah, I agree.
But Dunban's just the best. And like, does he just turn into like a wisecracking machine? Yes, but it's like there are some people in life who just always know exactly what to say, and he always just has the best advice.
That's true.
And he always stays strong even when things are really bad.
Then we have Melia, who is the princess of the High Entia.
So tragic. Like just she just gets thrown into the gutter.
Very tragic.
Like she already feels ostracized for being half High Entia, half Homs, and then her entire race, everyone she knows and loves, dies and gets turned into a monster, and then she doesn't even get a conclusion really in the game.
Not at all.
Like it doesn't come until the DLC 10 years later. Like it's really tragic and sad.
Yeah, it really is. It really, really is. And on my second playthrough, I've been playing as Melia more. Melia is super fun.
She's so fun. Once you figure her out, she's super fun.
But speaking of fun though, Ricky is just absolutely incredible.
Hit a bun. Like a bow.
I'm keeping that.
I love Ricky so much. I am Ricky's #1 fan. I just want everyone to know. Like, he is so one note.
Ricky is just the best. I love that Ricky's whole story is that he owes money. He owes money to his village, and everyone makes him go on this adventure in hopes of him like coming back to be able to repay his debts. Like, that is so funny to me.
Yeah. again, like no arc at all except for one beautiful scene about fatherhood that him and Dunban share on the beach. But apart from that, like he's just this cute little Furby. Like he has like he's just so cute and so funny. And again, like I don't know why he works. I think it's the performance of the actor.
Yeah, agreed.
It's like it should be so annoying. And I think it's in 2 and 3. I know we'll talk about this a bit later, but it's like the Nopon and that really kind of annoy me. And I think it's the performance of the actor or the way he's been written somehow. Like he's just so endearing and so fun. And an aspect I love about it so much, and you especially get this in the post-battle dialogue, is that everyone except for Shulk is kind of making fun of Ricky to his face. Like they're all like patronized. They're like, oh, I'll give you a little cuddle, or like, wow, what a big hero pod. Like I think Fiora goes like, oh, my hero. And my favorite one is when Dunban's like, oh, I didn't even realize you were here, Ricky. And then Shulk like earnestly is like, Dunban, like you're embarrassing Ricky. It's so fun and it's so cute.
Shout out to Wayne Forrester who voices Ricky. Just
absolute goated performance.
Incredible. And then we also have, I love that the community online publicly and outwardly call her Seven so as to not spoil the story. Like I think that's really sweet and endearing.
Day, still,
given that the game's been out for 13 years, the original one. But yeah, Fiora is the last playable character.
And she's super fun. Again, like this last playthrough for me, I learned how to play her. She's really fun. She's great. Like a lot of people complain that she doesn't really have much of an arc, again, apart from like just living for Shulk. But this game to me is like a romance, right? And like, again, maybe it's the writing or the performance, but she feels a lot more three-dimensional than she probably is on paper. And she is super sweet and endearing, and seeing her and Shulk reconnect is really lovely. But then her kind of wanting to have the power to fight alongside her friends and, you know, carve a path towards the future is very beautiful.
It's such a great cast, And now that we've spoken about them a little bit, I want to go back and talk about the ending and the last like 3 to 5 hours of the story, because again, when I was climbing the Mechonis, I was like, oh, this is it. I was like, oh, it kind of sucks that I can like see the ending of the game. And then you get to that cutscene and you're like, LOL, JK, never mind. What is going on?
This game is the pinnacle of like, I know where this is going. Oh, what the fuck? I know where this is going. Oh, what the fuck? I know where this is going.
No, it really is. And it's so good too. I mean, you don't see it coming at all. Although I did have my suspicions about Dixon. I was like, this dude's a little bit sketchy, but I don't know what's going to happen.
That is one thing I don't like about this game. There's a line he says at Satol Marsh, and that on repeats is just like embarrassing writing, I think. It's like you walk off and then he just goes like, oh, I can't say I feel too good about deceiving these kids. And it's like, oh, like it's a terrible line.
I mean, that did not at all impact my ability to stay completely ignorant to the big twist. So I didn't see it at all, and I was not expecting us to go to space. But like you've played the game a fair few more times than me. How do you feel about that ending sequence after Shulk gets shot?
It shouldn't work. It's so confusing. Like you have to kind of like mentally prepare yourself to like wrap your head around what's going on. Like it's such a bizarre turn out of left field. And yet again, I don't know why, but the game just nails it. Like it's such especially that final cutscene is just the perfect conclusion to the game. I love so much that the entire game is this like revenge story about man versus machine that sort of changes, and then suddenly it's this like, what is our role in destiny? Like, what does it mean to seize your future and carve the path that you want? What is the point of a god and its power? Like it's comes out of nowhere, but it's so good. And and Zanza is such a good villain despite not really being in the game that much. I love that it's the same voice actor as Shulk. I think that's a really good touch.
Shout out again to Adam Howden, who was incredible in both performances.
Yeah, again, he does such a great job. That ending, once you enter space and once you fight Zanza, everything in that is so good, especially gameplay wise, which again is like really quickly, I think we should say like the game does such a good job at like synchronizing the story with the gameplay, because in the gameplay you get the visions.
Agreed. And you get the visions from the Monado.
So it's not just a fancy thing that happens there's no disconnect. It's like the visions affect the story in the cutscenes and they also affect the gameplay. Same with like when you unlock a new Monado power, it affects the story and also affects the gameplay, vice versa. And so like when you're fighting Zanza, you know, it's so so, you hear Zanza the Divine, and it's like, oh, this is a big final boss, and you're doing your best. You're just these small little chumps in space, and he's going to destroy you, and he's going to rebirth the universe, and it's incredible. And then suddenly you start getting visions again, even though you shouldn't be able to because you don't have the Monado anymore. And in the second and third phase, you can hear Zanza's voice lines change, and suddenly he goes from this like egotistical, overzealous and confident god to being like, oh shit, I'm gonna die. Even just like the small seed of doubt in his brain is like this big fracture for his like, solidified persona that he's put up for himself. I do love the visions that kind of throughout the whole game are what you use to defeat Zanza in the end.
Yeah.
And then just the entire ending sequence is like Alvis is just being really confusing, and he's like, whose side are you on? And then suddenly it's like, that line, today we use our power to fell a god and then seize our destiny. It's that classic JRPG thing, but they've done enough twists and turns the whole story that having this party of friends that you've gone on this massive adventure with, and constantly being reinforced with those themes of destiny and charging towards the future.
Yeah.
Bringing that together to destroy God and create the world that they want to create is just very beautiful. And then you get the big lore dump from Albus, like explaining like actually it's like Earth, but from the future. And then also he's the computer, and also like Shulk was actually Xander, who was actually Klaus, and Manus was a chick called Gallia. And it's like, what is going on? And then it's like world life stuff. And then again, Shulk being earnest, he says, Albus says all Zanza really wanted was a friend. And then Shulk says, oh, so our future and Zanza's future could have coexisted. Like there's no malice in Shulk's heart. He's just a little boy.
Yeah.
And then my favorite part is that Albus asks Shulk, who's like, because he's defeated the old god, he becomes the new god. And he says like, what do you want to do? And Shulk's like, I don't know. I didn't think about this. I don't want to be a god. And then all of his friends come up. And again, it's like there's that beautiful power of friendship, which is, it's a cliche trope, but it's such a beautiful one.
But it works so well within the context of Xenoblade 1. Given everything from like the really, really big story beats where you see the character interactions all the way down to like the post-battle dialogue, which is and there's so much of it. There's so much post-battle dialogue. You really get a sense of people's personalities. And so you get to the end and it is like the power of friendship helps Shulk summon the true Monado.
Yeah.
But it works. Like somehow it works. It is cliche, but in this game, I feel like it works. And you touched on one character that we know fairly little about, I want to say.
Still,
Alvis.
to this day. Like
Alvis, yeah. Like Alvis shows up a fair bit in the game, but is always this mysterious character. And the first time that we meet him... Whose side is he
on? We don't know.
Absolutely. And the first time that we meet him, he is also able to use the Monado and actually teaches Shulk an ability. And you're like, who is this? And so the entire game, you're kind of like, who is this? What is this person's story? What's going on? And then by the end of it, you learn that Alvis is actually just a computer. And one of my favorite cutscene in Xenoblade 2 is the reference to Xenoblade 1.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's incredible. It's really good.
It's so good. So you're as you're playing Xenoblade 2, you're like, is this a sequel? Is it a prequel? What is it? And you learn that the games are happening at the exact same time. And not to kind of go maybe too into like speculation into what Xenoblade 3 future DLC is going to be, but in Xenoblade 2, there's this concept of an Aegis and kind of, three Aegises were these kind of computers that created the universe. And Mithra and Malos are two Aegises, and they have these special core crystals, and they retcon that in for Alvis to have a core crystal as well, meaning he's potentially the third Aegis, I would assume. But in Xenoblade 3 DLC, it looks like, based off of the trailer, and I don't know, this might be a misdirect, it might not be, but it looks like Shulk and Rex and potentially Noah fight Alvis. Like, what is going on with Alvis? And Alvis has the Monado, and it's like, huh? What?
I'm scared they're gonna screw it up.
I'm terrified because Xenoblade 3's story made no sense to me.
Exactly that. Xenoblade 3 made no sense.
They had so much lore to pull from and then didn't pull from the lore. And I was like, why?
But more so, I think Albus is like, if Xenoblade 1 was the only game that came out in this series and then nothing else came out, he's like he's the perfect mixture of mysteriousness. Even in the ending, it's like I think I understand, like he was a computer, which then kind of became the Monado, so technically he is the Monado, and like you're like, that doesn't really make sense because we had the Monado the whole game, but like anyways.
Yeah, but he has that line, to your point, he says, I am Monado.
Yeah. I was here at the beginning and I will proclaim the end. So obviously he's mad for some reason. But you make a good point with Xenoblade 2 that what's a really interesting little exercise to do is if you watch the Xenoblade 1 version of those events and then immediately watch the Xenoblade 2 one, and they're quite different. Like the Xenoblade 2 one's lengthened out, but more so in the Xenoblade 1 version, Klaus is very angry and he pushes Mainith over, and he's very cocky, and that sort of reflects Zanza, right? And then in the Xenoblade 2 one, the cutscene's only presented to us, the viewer, like the characters don't actually see it. So, you know, you could argue that that's the objective truth of what happened, and the Xenoblade 1 version was like an abridged one because it's longer, more stuff is said, and also Klaus he's not really angry, and he's like more curious, and and that sort of lines up way more with the architect in Xenoblade 2. But we're not here to talk about Xenoblade 2. We're talking about Xenoblade 1, which has the best ending ever. Seeing everybody in the new Colony 9 working together. Everyone's so happy. And then Fiora goes to the beach and she sees Shulk, and together they're being awkward and cute again. They look towards the ocean, the endless ocean, which is such a beautiful metaphor for like the endless future they've got ahead of each other. Alvis says to them, or he said to them, you know, it's like all of life will walk towards the future hand in hand together. So that's what it's all about. And then the game ends. And honestly, like I think the series could have ended there. I would have been really happy. It's such a beautiful ending.
Agree. I totally agree. I feel like there's a lot of different themes in Xenoblade 1.
Yeah.
And what are some of your favorites? Because like the two that really stand out to me and that stood out to me the entire time that I played, the first one was, and I know that this is so cheesy, but it is the power of the people that you surround yourself with.
Oh,
right?
for sure.
So like, absolutely, like that, you know, kept Shulk going, right? Is the people around him this entire time. And, you know, eventually everyone kind of supported him. And I agree to your earlier point that Shulk was way more developed than the other characters, but you know, maybe that was intentional in that
it really is Shulk's game.
It is. It absolutely is Shulk's game. But it also tells a story of like, you know, if we were just to focus on the aspect of what it means to be well supported as a person and have good people around you, like that's just one of my favorite themes in the game. And then the second one is seizing your own destiny and making your own decisions and deciding what you want to do with the time that you have. Just so good.
I do think reconciliation's another big one because like the whole point is like love over hatred, you know. You know, the way they win is by, you know, the Homs agreeing to be friends again with Egil, you know, the Machina. That's such a brilliant scene, and that's what it's all about. And, you know, it kind of ties in with the fact that all Zanza ever wanted was a friend.
Yeah.
So, but I think you nailed the major themes on the head. That's really what the game's about. It's about looking to the future and you know, aspiring to carve the desired outcome that you want. And then to Xenoblade 2's credit, I think what's really brilliant about that game is they thought, well, what do we do? Let's do the opposite. And that game's all about looking back to the past and not letting it trap who you are now. So yeah, just some cool stuff is going on in this game. Such a cool game. So sick.
We're coming up on time.
Oh God.
So is there anything else that you wanted to talk about? Because I have a really important question. That's going to be the last question.
Oh God. Oh, what silly question is this going to be? I can hear it in your voice already. There are a couple of things I want to talk about really quickly.
Oh, yeah.
I do really, really, really love, I feel like we didn't talk about it, but like there's great foreshadowing in the game, right? And there's like, you know, there's like the more like subtle ones, like Shulk saying there are two versions of me in my head, which of course could be him and what's it called? Zanza. But then also just like the actual visions themselves, like getting little glimpses of the story together, especially on that first playthrough is so exciting. That first one you get in the lab where you see like a big montage of things and you hear Egil's voice and you see all this scary stuff happening. It's like really intriguing. You're like, what's this? And then when you get to those moments that you saw in visions in the story, it's such like a fun payoff, even though like, it's just like you got like a little sneak peek and then you see it. Like it shouldn't be that exciting, but it is really fun. And it's just such a brilliant story mechanic. And, you know, I think that's one of the things, again, with Xenoblade 2 and 3, like you could just never do that again. Like it's such a fun part of the story that those games just don't have. What else? Let me look at my notes. I think really quick, I do want to talk about Egil. I think he's such a brilliant villain because, not only is he brilliantly performed and he's got that amazingly evil, maniacal, deep, resonant voice, but also he's kind of right, from his perspective, like he's doing the right thing. If he kills off all these Homs, it's going to weaken Zanza's power and Zanza wants to destroy everything.
Yeah, because Zanza is the soul of the Bionis, and Zanza hid his soul in the Monado and took over a giant's body because giants were the original inhabitants of the Bionis. Maybe you could explain it. I was always just like, what is going on?
So there was a guy called Argolis. He was a giant, and then there was a guy called Egil. He's the Makana, and they were really best buds. And then for some reason, Argolis was like, "Rrr," and he grabbed the Monado, and then suddenly Zanza's soul got put into his body, and then he went to destroy Mechonis. And I think that was because he wanted to be the one ruler of the world, and Mainith was the god of that place. So then they got into this endless battle, which we were told was how the world created. And then that ended in a stalemate. Sorry, I forgot the original point.
I forget too.
Anyway, something happened.
Whoops.
But before we move on to the end, I do think it's also important when you look at games that you really like to talk about what it doesn't do well. And there are like plenty of things I think the story doesn't do well in this game. I don't know, is that like a down on your podcast, or would you like
No, please.
There are some things, especially in that last final plot twist, which is the last 5 hours, like some things just do not make sense or not explained very well. The one that has always confused me on repeat playthroughs is we're told the timeline of events is Klaus and Galea are in the space station, then they reboot the world, and then it starts as the Bionis Mechonis and they're attacking each other, or maybe they were just peaceful for a bit, and then they started attacking each other. And then eventually Shulk was born, blah, blah, blah. But then Zanza has this one-off line where he says, "I will destroy the world and rebirth it like I've done many times before." And you're like, what? Like, and then no one ever mentions that again. Yeah, and like, but I don't think it's in character for Zanza to lie about that. And so that feels like a cool idea that he just came up with, but then didn't really bother explaining. And then again, the other thing is the character arcs. There are just giant moments in this story where like some characters will have nothing to do. Like you get Melia and she's great, and then just for ages she has nothing to say. Yeah. And then like I love Ricky, but like you forget he's in the game sometimes because he's just so small and just only has one-liners. And that's something I think the sequels do a way better job at, is balancing those characters in the party.
Yeah, I agree. From a story perspective, Xenoblade 1 is easily my favorite, but
for sure. It's got problems, but it's still the tightest by far, I think.
Yeah, agreed. I do unfortunately think that 2 and 3 develop their characters just more. It feels like everyone has enough screen time.
For sure. Like Xenoblade 2 is a lot better at it, and I still don't think it's perfect. Like I think some of the characters aren't that greatly developed, but they all sort of get like a big moment, especially, and then you've also got your characters like Rex, Pyra, Mithra, Poppy, Nia, even Zeke. Like they have these really great character arcs. And then Xenoblade 3 again, I think because it's a smaller cast, I think. Well, then do they even get developed? Because not really, because you have to half the development's done in side quests, which I didn't do. So.
Yeah. Okay.
So. Anyways, I feel like I'm talking your ear off. I know I'm the guest, but
no, this is great.
Shut me up.
This is great. Anything else that you want to mention about 2 and 3?
I hate them. No. I think
I remember. Okay, I do want to call this out. I remember playing the ending of 3. You were watching my stream, and there's one part of the ending of 3 where they show older Rex. Well, the older cast, and it was like, what is this? Why are we doing this? Just why? What's happening? I wonder where they're going to take the DLC, because my opinion on 3 is that what they have shown in the latest trailer in the DLC, which is Alvis and Shulk and Rex, it should have just been in the base game. Why was that not in the base game?
I don't know. I don't know. I've seen a lot of people kind of say that like it was supposed to just be a thematic conclusion to the trilogy, and in that case, I kind of get it. But then it's like, if that was the case, I feel like they shouldn't have put Melia and Nia in there.
Yeah, I agree.
But we're gonna talk for hours, so I'm gonna veto this right now because I feel like you and I will just go off for ages.
That is
about
true.
it.
We will. We'll talk for 3 hours, and unfortunately, this can't be a 3-hour episode. But you should come back. You will come back. You have to come back.
I'm never coming back.
Well, okay, that's.
I'm also never talking to you ever again. I'm blocking after.
Okay, all right, that's fine. I'll see you never.
So yeah.
The most important question. Did the territorial Rotbart kill you in Gower Plains?
No, I always avoided it till I was strong enough to
Really?
kill the fucking monkey.
Okay, so
Just run away.
I accidentally got killed by it.
Accidentally?
Just accidentally. Yeah, just accidentally.
It's a big monkey.
I was like, why is battle music playing? And then
It's a big monkey. It's a big monkey.
Okay, look, my camera was panned in the wrong direction.
That's the thing, like, I love at Xenoblade. I love this trope of like putting a strong enemy in like the
So
beginning
funny.
area, and then you get to come back and be like, "Yeah, I'm gonna kill you." Yeah, it's so fun.
It's so good.
Yeah, but this game is just so goated. Like, I feel like it does such a synchronous. That's not a word. Is synchronous a word? It is a word. It does such a synchronous job at like combining the story and the gameplay where it all feels connected. It doesn't feel like there's a disconnect between the characters where you play as and the characters in the story. And because they never shut up in the most endearing way possible with the combat, like you actually really, care about these characters, whether it be cheering them up when their tension's low or in the post-battle dialogue or in the cutscenes. It's just, it does such a good job at making you care about these characters and therefore caring about the story and therefore caring about the game and therefore caring about the franchise. So you pay them more money when they give you sequels and DLCs and remakes. And that's basically what happens.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. Actually, can I say really quickly?
Right. Yeah.
The series only has 4 official figurines. There's 2 incredible Pyra ones. There's 1 beautiful Melia one they did for Future Connected. And then there's the tiny, dinky little Shulk amiibo from like 7 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
That's it. Give me a full-scale Shulk one. I'd love that. Or the Monado.
I've only seen the poorly manufactured Shulk one on YouTube
so
where
funny.
someone's playing the recorder really poorly. It's really funny.
We love Shuck.mp4. Classic video.
So good. To wrap us up, you have time to plug absolutely anything that you want. The floor is yours.
There's a really amazing podcast I've been listening to called Quest Market. No.
You know what? I'm going to plug your YouTube channel.
I'll plug
so if you go to youtube.com/c/snugboy, you can watch Snug's videos. Brilliant video essays on a variety of games. And anything else that you want to plug?
I don't know, just be aware of your local charities and stuff. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. I don't know. Just be nice to everyone. Call your mum, tell her that you love her. No, tell your friends that you love them too. I don't know.
Aw.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very thematic.
Well, Marina, this has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me on your podcast.
You're going to have to come back for...
I will have to come back then maybe for when the DLC drops.
Yeah.
For Xenoblade Chronicles 3, because that's got our boy Shulk, that's got our boy Rex, that's got our boy Alvis, that's got our boy...
Unfortunately,
what?
If we start talking about Xenoblade 3, I'm just going to talk about just my frustrations with Xenoblade.
Well, then that's an end. That's a wrap. If you're listening, Merry Christmas and have a Happy New Year. Ho, ho, ho,
It
ho.
is March. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Snug, thank you so much for being here. And let me know what you want to come back for.
Thank you for being on the show. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening and for being here. Really hope you enjoyed today's chat. If you'd like to follow us on social media, links will be below. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, reply, retweet, all of the above. Give us a shout as to what games you'd like to see covered next, and we will see you next time. Thanks again.